Bueno, vamos a esperar unos segundos para que se vaya sumando la gente. Ahora sí, ya tenemos un número interesante.
We're going to wait some moments for people to join in. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us again in our cycle of webinars. In particular, today we have a webinar of our partner WorkWithPlus, where they will be telling us about the news of WorkWithPlus, so AI, dynamic forms, and much more. We will have Sofia Maiolo, who's going to explain this for us. I want to remind you that this webinar has interpreting into English and Portuguese. So to choose a language, you just have to click on interpreting and choose the language you wish to listen to the meeting in. The dynamic will be the same as always. We'll have the presentation by Sofia, and in the end, we will have some Q&A. So without further ado, I'll leave you with Sofia. Go ahead. Great. Thank you very much, Aníbal. Good afternoon, everyone. A pleasure, as always, to participate in this webinar. Thank you to the team of GeneXus for supporting us. And the idea of this webinar is to tell you about the news that we're working on with WorkWithPlus, so that you can quickly take advantage of the latest trends and technologies. Before we jump into what's new, I want to just ask you to wait for 2 minutes because I'm going to make a quick introduction to WorkWithPlus for those who don't know it yet. WorkWithPlus is a Uruguayan company where we work every day to boost the experience of work with GeneXus. We believe that the future of software development is low code, and we trust in GeneXus as the ideal platform to face the new technological waves. But we know that we can also provide a plus of automation, productivity, and design, and allow you to do more with less time. And that's what we do every day since 15 years ago with WorkWithPlus, to find ways to boost the experience of work with GeneXus. That's how we have built a family of products that tries to cater to different needs, different challenges that we have in the GeneXus community. So we have WorkWithPlus for web, for native mobile, oriented to try to have the most productivity in web and mobile developments in order to develop apps that have great user experiences. WorkWithPlus for BI, in order to include this aspect as well. WorkWithPlus for audit, in order to have traceability of our records, and WorkWithPlus for video call in order to allow video consultations in the apps that are generated with GeneXus. This platform, what it tries to do, as I was saying, is to have a fourfold productivity in GeneXus and try to build multi-experience solutions with security, design, usability, and power that users nowadays need and ask for. This platform of products is commercialized in more than 35 countries. We have a beautiful community of more than 5,000 users who use WorkWithPlus every day to boost the developments. And as always, we try to evolve following all of the news that GeneXus brings us, and following the suggestions of our community, and with the ideas and different solutions that our development team incorporates into our product. Today, in particular, all the news that I'm going to show you are included in WorkWithPlus 15 Update 2, which is the version that we're going to release in just a few days. So everything I'm going to show you today is going to be available briefly so that you can use it. These news try to cater to the 3 pillars that for us are fundamental to create apps with amazing UX, with designs that are perfect, with powerful features, and with 100% flexibility. Also, to be able to have a boosted developer experience, to be able every day in your daily work when you use GeneXus as a platform for development, to be able to work faster, do more, work in a more productive way, in an easier way. And of course, automation and productivity to try to do this for tasks and create in a quick way complex behaviors and take advantage of all the power that GeneXus brings us. And now, after this quick introduction, we're going to go straight into the news. So I'm not saying anything new if I say that 2023 has been the year of AI. It's been the year where we've seen and heard different proposals, different ideas, different alternatives of how AI can change how we develop and the user experiences. But until now, we didn't have a practical and concrete way of adding it or adding AI functionalities in the apps that are generated with GeneXus. So that's why in all these months since this revolution of AI began, we've been working on WorkWithPlus in order for you to be able to use the power of AI in your products in the WorkWithPlus way. With few clicks, you'll be able to bring all this power, all of these functions to your apps and projects. In this sense, we propose generating a new type of experience based on the user intention and the user intent. That is, users will indicate what is the output that they expect from our system, and the app, through precisely AI, is going to decide what is the best way or what are best screens, how they have to be distributed in order to show the user the results that they are expecting. So there is quite a fundamental change in how users work with apps. There's been a quite interesting change in terms of the user experience, and this is one of the ways in which we think are more frequent with the use of AI. That's why we have incorporated it into WorkWithPlus. I'm going to show you in further detail how this works, which until now seems quite abstract. We created a feature where the users express, as we said, what is the expected output of the system. They express it in natural language, just writing what they want to see, what they want to query. And we, when I say we, I mean WorkWithPlus, what we do is we process those requests of the user, and with a whole group of metadata, which called semantic model, we send it to Saya. And you're probably wondering what Saya is. Saya is a component that GeneXus has recently released, which encapsulates different large language models, such as ChatGPT or others, and allows us to abstract a bit of the complications of going directly to those models. For those who haven't yet heard about Saya, I invite you to Google it because they have all the documentations. They have a very interesting site with lots of information. And those who want to try it out, you'll see that the experience, the user experience, is quite familiar because it was built with WorkWithPlus. But the important thing here is that if we use Saya, again, what we do always with WorkWithPlus is take advantage of the power of GeneXus to automatize a lot of behaviors. And so if we go back, users are going to deploy, or they're going to input what is their expected output, that request, that need of the user, together with a lot of metadata that WorkWithPlus generates automatically based on the information of the knowledge base, is going to be sent to Saya. Saya, you will configure it so that it uses the model that you need, that you wish, and it's going to bring the answer with the intention, with the intent of the user, and it's going to be deployed in WorkWithPlus so that a user can see the information that they need. We suggest using Saya because, as we said, it encapsulates and really subtracts a lot of the difficulties of the work with other models. But of course, if you want to go directly to a particular model without going through Saya, you can do it as well. We have that whole feature, that whole function available in order to have that flexibility. So this is sort of the architecture, the way in which we're working with this function. The interesting thing here is that we're going to process the requests of the users, and we're going to automatically generate this whole model based on the information that we have in the KB. And that's where we're going to be saving a lot of time, and where automation that we have in WorkWithPlus is going to really solve this for us in an automatic way and transparent way. So if we go to the concrete aspects, how do we incorporate this type of navigation in GeneXus with WorkWithPlus? It's basically having a property. We try to find a way for you to have this in the WorkWithPlus way. And so in the design system wizard that you already know and use usually, you're just going to just click a new checkbox that is going to include the whole artificial intelligence model. And so by doing this, you will have all this function available in your KBs in an automatic way. And if you want, you can also configure it for each entity, which behaviors or which configurations you want to have. But the important thing is that we won't have to codify anything. There's no code. We just switch on the module. If we want, we can adjust some additional configurations, and that's it. It's completely automatic. WorkWithPlus is going to generate this whole new way of interaction with the system. And let's try to see it in action. Let's play a bit around and see which scenarios, which intents we could work on or discover. Here, for example, and this is a classic app generated with WorkWithPlus, the user is writing explore evolution. And so here it's going to show us what is the best screen, what is the best interface to show the output that the client expects, which is to see the evolution of sales in this case. And so it's going to show it in a dashboard with graphs, with indicators in this case. But I could also write something like make a list of the accounts of a certain bank, Santander Bank, for example, and which also have a balance of less than 1 million or whichever, or 500,000, whatever amount you need. And that's going to show me, in this case, I'm going to get the screen where I work with the accounts. It's already got the filters here to just see the accounts of that bank, of Santander Bank, and with an amount that is less than what we indicated. So you can see that the filters are already applied. We can do this at the level of the general application, as you can see with the search bar there in the master page, but we also have this assistant for the queries in each entity. So here I'm directly on the accounts entity, and over there I can also make another query. For example, make a list of the accounts with a balance of 500,000 plus or minus 10%. And there I use the plus or minus. It could be something more complex, and automatically we get the result of the list with the filters that are associated. But we have another scenario, which is seeing the details of a particular record. For example, I want to see the cards that have that are going to expire soon. So something that is quite general. And in this case, it could take me to a list of cards, but since I only have one card that is going to expire soon, because there's not another one with the same date, it's going to bring me directly to the details of a specific card. Another similar example, seeing the accounts that were created, the first account that was created, for example, and here it takes me to the specific record of a specific registry. So it does this knowing what is the intent of the user and also through the data that we have. So these types of scenarios are solved in a completely automatic way, as I was saying, just switching on that property. You don't have to write any code. And why do I insist on this? Because, of course, the world of artificial intelligence, of the different models, has its complexities. And diving into that world is not simple. So the important thing here is for you to, in a very quick and easy way, be able to incorporate all this and take away all those difficulties that it has behind. But there's also a function that we've created that has the power so that if you want to extend this with different intents of the user, you can do it as well. Here I prepared an example for you where I am writing create a purchase order with dated today for Sofia Maiolo. And so you will see that we're going to have a wizard, a classic WorkWithPlus wizard with the purchase order, with the data that we wanted already there. It says the date, the gender, everything. And so the user can complete the interaction. And so these can be added to all of the intents that are already by default solved by WorkWithPlus. And it's very simple. We have a how-to, a tutorial that is quite easy for you to follow it. So we are going to solve a whole lot of scenarios in an automatic way, and we'll have the flexibility to solve many other scenarios. This was just an example, but of course, you can let your imagination run free, and this will, of course, lead to very interesting cases. And so there's the flexibility for you to do it as well. So in summary, we are proposing a new type of interaction, right, with the screens, with the system, a new type of navigation. We are using Saya, taking advantage of the power and the skills that they bring us. And this is available now in GeneXus Next. It's not something that's going to be available in the future, something that we're working on and will be available later on. If you're using GeneXus Next and you generate an app with WorkWithPlus, you're going to be able to try it out. So this is already in production in GeneXus Next, and it's going to be released in the traditional WorkWithPlus version as well soon. And so those who want to try it out can go to GeneXus Next. GeneXus Next is great to create quick apps, and so you can try it out, play, and start to imagine all of these things in your systems. As I was saying, we have the semantic model with information of the transactions, filters, menus, and domains. That is generated automatically by WorkWithPlus. You don't have to worry about that. Something that is also important is that we are going to bear the cost. We're going to have it's going to be free for development environments. We are going to bear the cost for it. You're going to import this, and you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to pay for an additional license. You don't have to worry about that. We just suggest that when you go from a production environment to another, you do it with your own account, your own environment, so that you can have control of what you're doing, and so that you can have everything well coordinated and managed. But for development environments, testing environments, you don't have to make any changes. You will just have to create a Saya account and configure Saya to use your user and have that control yourselves. And as I was saying, we're going to be able to work with lots of intentions based on the menu options, lists, filters, record details. And we're also going to be able to code our own intentions if needed. But automatically, we will already have this whole behavior ready to be used. So I invite you to try it out in GeneXus Next and also in our new version soon. And before we move on to the next feature, I would like to stop for a moment. I think that with this feature, we're giving the GeneXus community and the users of WorkWithPlus a power that is very interesting to be able to quickly increase the potential of your developments and your business models. The companies nowadays are really eager to incorporate AI into their apps. And I think that it's a great opportunity, whether you're the internal development team of a company or whether you're a software company, it's a great opportunity to incorporate this and bring this to your users in a quick way. This can create new business models. It's certainly going to enhance customer engagement. It's going to really give you a competitive edge. And so I think that these are great news for the whole GeneXus community. And as always, we can do this because we are using a platform as GeneXus, and because WorkWithPlus is always they're alert in order to bring you the newest trends and the best functionalities as soon as possible. So I would love for you to try it out and tell us about how it worked, your ideas. I'm sure that with your ideas there will be, of course, new features and improvements that we can have. So I'm sure that very interesting things will come out of it. I'm going to move on now to the second feature of the several that I have prepared for today. We have created a new module in WorkWithPlus to bring flexibility to the next level. We have created a module to design and share dynamic forms. This is something that we've seen, this need is something that we have seen appear in many projects and apps. The case where you have to generate a survey, exam, dynamic forms. And even though this is something that can be done in GeneXus, it's quite complex, it's quite hard to achieve. With WorkWithPlus, in the same way as I was saying with the topic of artificial intelligence, we are also bringing this to just be one click away. And this functionality is also encompassed in a series of other functionalities that we have that try to create resources and functions that are very powerful and that you can create and apply in a very easy way. This is the case of the whole module that we have to generate multi-tenant applications, the module that we have to generate 3-layer architecture, the discussions modules, audits. We're always thinking about how we can really use the full power of GeneXus and that you can create apps that are very powerful in a very easy way. So this set of functions is going to now have this addition of the dynamic forms. Again, it's very simple. It's just turning on a property in the design system wizard. This is going to include the whole module of design of dynamic forms. And once you import it and run the application, you're going to see that there's a new option in the menu that is going to be the whole screens that are going to allow us to manage, create, and design our dynamic forms in execution time. So we're going to see how to create a dynamic form. Remember that we are in execution time. We can see here the forms that are already created. We're going to create a new form, in this case, to register for a sports club in this case. And so here we can say what type of form it is. It can be just information, or it can be a wizard where we will have different steps where the user will complete information. We are designing the form right now. Here we add the first steps, we add a tag with information, we're going to add the second step. And we will see all of this here. We have the form designer, and so you can do it easily. In the second step, we're going to add a new field, which is the field for a name. So it's a text field. As you can see there, here we're going to add the last name field. We're going to add a new element. In this case, it's going to be the date, which is going to be a date type field, and we're going to show their calendar for the user to select it. Here we're going to add a validation. We're going to ask for this to be compulsory so that they can't leave this field empty. Let's add here gender. In this case, we're going to have options, and we can write there all the options that we want to include so that users can select, and it's going to appear there in a drop-down list. We're going to add now a new step in this form. So additional information that the person is going to complete. Here we're going to add different elements. In this case, we're going to ask the user to complete their hobbies. And we're going to do this with a combo box, or maybe we can change it and do it with checkboxes. And we also mark there that maybe that you can select several items and you can see there how it would look. We're going to add another new field. In this case, it's going to be sports that the person wants to carry out in the club. And so here we're also going to have predefined options. We're going to show them here in a combo. And we can also see it there in the preview. And of course, in this way, we could add lots of fields, and we wouldn't have enough time today to show you all of the options that we have available. You can imagine that there's lots of combinations, different types of data, containers, controls of different types of containers that you can incorporate. Here, for example, we have an element with a grid because we're going to allow users to input their emails, and maybe the person has more than one email, and so this is an element that users are going to be able to add so that they can add as many emails as they wish. So this is how you or any user of the system could design a form, a survey, an exam. Something that is important is that we can also add validations. We can add validations that are quite complex, where we can mention other fields of the same form. When I put an ampersand there, we see the different fields that I can reference within the validations, and so I can have controls that are quite complex and which are validated field to field. And when we confirm the execution of the form. So we're able to create really complex forms with lots of functions and with the validations that are associated. And then our users will be able to complete these forms. They're going to be able to do it online on the web or in a native app. Here we are seeing how to complete it in a web app. There we see all of the fields that we were adding, and users can go ahead and complete it. They can select each of the information pieces, complete the form with their information, and of course this was all generated automatically based on the design of the form that we created. Another thing that we should highlight is that we're going to be able to see, as managers of this form, how many people completed it. We can generate a PDF file with a summary of everything that a user answered. And this PDF could be sent via email to the user, or you can check it and have the control there. And as I said, this also applies for native mobile. So you'll design the form in the web app, and that form can be completed on the web or in a native way. You don't have to worry about designing separate forms. It's going to be the same form, and you're going to be able to see it web or in a native way. And in both cases, it's going to be shown correctly, respecting the configurations that you selected. I would like to make a summary of this function because it's quite complex, and right now I just show you the tip of the iceberg of everything that we have. Basically, we're going to be able to design forms and other types, so also surveys in a dynamic way. We can choose the type of form, if it's going to be plain or wizard. We can choose the type of containers, the types of data. In the case of the data types, they can be static, or they can also be dynamic. Maybe you can put an extended combo and ask for a procedure or service that is going to bring the dynamic information that is also resolved and considered. We can choose the format, etc. We can also define visible conditions, visible fields, and other types of constraints that you might need, or validations. And as I said, you can do it for each field or at the end, or at the end. There's a PDF that is going to be generated automatically in order to visualize and eventually share with the users that form that was completed. It's for web and native mobile, as I already showed you. Another very interesting thing is that we have the possibility, once you design a form, to export it so that in other systems, in other apps, you can import that form and it's already created. You don't have to create it several times. The most likely case could be when you want to go from testing to production, and so you just use the export and you can import them. And we can also see, as I said, how many forms were completed. An interesting thing is that if you create a form with certain fields, the user in the middle completes that form, and then you change the form. So you add a new field, you eliminate another one, or make any modification. You're also going to get a warning saying that there are forms that were completed with the previous definition. And so it's really a holistic approach. Everything has been solved. And we think that this function is going to be really well received by the community. We are eager to see how you use it and for you to give us all your ideas and suggestions, because we think that you'll be really going to be able to take profit of this. And GeneXus is quite complex in general. And really, this is a very trivial way to use it, a very easy way to use it with a cost of 0. And I'm going to show you now the third function, which is our events editor. As I said in the beginning, and as you know, at WorkWithPlus, we work to always try to improve the development experience so that development teams can work faster and easier in GeneXus. The typical example is our editor with the hierarchy and the real-time preview, where productivity for the creation of screens is really rocketed, and you can work in a really simple way with the preview and other functions that we have there. But we have been working in these last few months in a very specific way in empowering the events editor. We know that any application that is a bit complex, you will have to add your own logic, code, add all of the behaviors that are needed. And as users of other environments of development, such as Visual Studio or Android Studio, etc., we see that there are several functions that sometimes we miss when we move on to GeneXus. And so we try to incorporate this function so that we can work in the same way and with the same productivity when writing code in GeneXus as well. There are several functions. This is the list. There are some others. I'm not going to go into detail for all of them. Of course, they will all be documented in it is notes in order for you to be able to explore them further. And I'm sure that many of you are going to really like these functions right away. But I'm going to mention some of them so that the idea is clear and where we're headed is clear. One of the functions that we added is the possibility of doing tooltips over elements. For example, I can stand on a procedure and the tooltip is going to show me the name, the rule with the corresponding data of each of the parameters. This can also be done on a variable that shows me the type of data, so I can see if a variable is based on something without having to click on the variable and go to the properties to see what is the type of data that it's based on. Another of the function is that we have added new options in the toolbar. It's important to highlight that we have all of this in the event editor of WorkWithPlus, where if you open any object, you will see as event by WorkWithPlus. And there we have the toolbar where we have options to navigate the different parts of the screen where we clicked. The typical case is I'm in a portion of code. I reach to a part where we have a subroutine. And so when I go to the details of that, I do it with control click, and then with the arrows, I can go back to where I was placed before. So we also have options to collapse or expand the code, to collapse the code that is generated with WorkWithPlus. And so there's several new options in the toolbar so that you can work in a faster way. Another resource that we really like, and we've been using it in the team, we really like it, is the possibility of extracting code to a subroutine or procedure. So you have a certain portion of code in an event or a part of your code, and you can select it and extract it to a subroutine or a procedure. And the procedure is going to be generated automatically with the name that you can input. The same with the subroutine, and so you'll be able to change that code. These are tasks that, even though they're not complex to do, in our daily work, they really take a lot of time, and they really have a cost on the agility when writing code. And so this is going to be really easy to do now. Another of the functions that are very useful to make writing code more agile is the option to define variables on the fly. When we're writing a variable, I can write a column and it's going to suggest there are different type of data, or I can use a complex type of data such as a BC, but the variable is going to be defined automatically based on that type of data that we defined. And so I don't have to use the mouse. That was our objective. You'll be able just with the keyboard to define the variables without having to use the mouse and doing a right click and adding the variables. So again, lots of resources so that you can go ahead and code in a faster way. And another of the things which sometimes we miss in other editors is the possibility of renaming variables. We'll be able to do this using this function. And of course, it's going to be updated in all the places where it's used. And the same for subroutines. I can rename a subroutine and it's going to be modified everywhere else. And talking about subroutines, the last function that I would like to tell you about in this category is the suggestions to call subs. If I write do, and I will get all of these subroutines and I can select it from there. So you can incorporate that really easy. So this is a set of functions that I thought for you to be able to code faster and easier with WorkWithPlus. And I'm going to go to the last feature that I want to tell you about today, which is with the end users in mind, the final users in mind, and it's the possibility of defining the runtime conditional formatting. So what is conditional formatting? It is a function that we have in WorkWithPlus since many versions ago, and it's quite used by our community, and it allows us to define conditions, and with those conditions, format the registers, the records. Up until now, those could be defined in design. In GeneXus, you defined which were the conditions. For example, I want for users who have a balance in their account of more than 1 million, I want them to be gold customers. And so I wrote that condition and defined the format associated to the condition. But I had to do that in design time in GeneXus. Since this function is really used by our users, and they tell us that in general the system users use it a lot and they like it, we have now taken this to a new level in order to define the conditions in execution time. This feature is within a broad set of features that we have in WorkWithPlus, so that users, final users, can really customize the screens. And this is really something that we see more and more in apps. Users want to be able to modify their screens without intervention from the development team. And you probably know a lot about these functions in WorkWithPlus. So the column selector that also allows you to see some columns and others not, and the order, the width of the columns. We have filters, the possibility of grouping columns in a dynamic way, and for all of that to be saved by each user so that when they go in again, their configuration is the way it was. So this new feature is added to that whole set of features that we think of to empower final users. And how do we use it? Well, in the WorkWithPlus way, as I've been saying, if I want to define this same example that I was telling you of the balances of accounts, and cataloging clients depending on the balance of their accounts, I have the option of defining dynamic variables that I'm going to use in the conditions, which typically I'm going to use to work with the limits of my conditions. Here, for example, I have a variable that is user amount, gold user amount, and there the value that I have is 1 million, and there I will define all of the variables that I need. And then when I define the conditions in the same way that I did before, instead of using fixed values, I'm going to use these variables that I defined. So in the first condition, I have a balance that is equal or more than gold user amount. And there I can define the format that I want to have, if I want the filter, etc. By doing it this way, in execution time, I'll be able to, of course, see the records with the corresponding values. I can filter that. We already had that. But I can go to the settings and there in runtime, write what is the new value, what is the new limit. And so here, for example, I'm going to go from 2 million to 1 million, and then of course the format of the data is going to be updated. This can be done by any final user, or it could be done by a manager user. Perhaps if you have a multi-business app where there is a user that manages these conditions in a more particular way, then we thought of this so that a user of those characteristics can do it as well. And so a lot of empowering final users. And apart from all of this, in this new version, we added several other features, such as confirmation panel and transactions. We worked on a more accessible menu, floating action in native mobile, and several more that, of course, will be detailed and explained in our edit notes so that you can take advantage of this real power. As I said, this is going to be released in the coming weeks. The part of AI, you can already try it out right now, today, in GeneXus Next. And I invite all of those who don't want to wait for the new version to be released and want to do it a bit before. You can complete the form that we have there on the website, workwithplus.com/try it now. It's a very simple form. You can fill it out, and we will, in the coming days, be sending you a beta version so that you can try out these resources for the users that already have WorkWithPlus and already have the license active. Of course, you'll be able to incorporate this as soon as we send you the version. There's no issue with that. But we also want that those who don't have WorkWithPlus can try out these resources, because we think that they are really powerful features that really make a difference, that are going to allow you to really boost your apps. And so if you don't have WorkWithPlus, you can complete that form and we're going to guide you so that you can try it out free of charge and see the potential of WorkWithPlus in your projects. So take note of that form and we'll be sending you the information if you complete it. And apart from all these resources that we're going to be launching with a version, as always, we work with empowering our community. For us, the Work with Plus community is the most important thing. We work for this community. We'll work for you to be able to develop in a quicker way, to create apps that are powerful in just a few clicks. And in these months, we have created different resources to empower and boost the community. We have a blog where we are including success stories, tips, and news. If any of you want to share what you've done with Work with Plus, you can write to us, and it would be a pleasure for us to add your story to the blog. We have been working also since last year in a new certification of Work with Plus. This is something that we launched last year, and we already have more than 250 certified professionals. We have also released a new site, workwithplus.com/devs, where you can see all the certified professionals, the professionals certified with Work with Plus. And you can configure this in your profile. We think that it's great in order to boost your careers within GeneXus and to create business connections. And so all those who want to be certified can write to us. We have workshops every month with certifications. And for you to learn about these workshops easily, we have also created a new website, workwithplus.com/learning, where you can see all the workshops. There's free workshops, others are paid with a certification. You can see all the activities that we are carrying out. You can enroll there and be up to date with the news and activities that we have for our community. So I invite you to access these sites. And if you already have the certification, you'll probably find each other in the developers site, and those who don't have it, you can enroll for the next course that we're going to have. And talking about community, the GeneXus meeting is coming, the GX30. We're very excited. We were talking about it a while ago with Aníbal. We think that it's going to be a beautiful opportunity to meet again in person, to be able to feel that community, that GeneXus community, all together in an event that is going to last 3 days, sharing lots of activities. And it's certainly going to be a very rich experience, and so enriching experience. So we expect you from the 28th to the 30th of November here in Montevideo, Uruguay. I hope we can meet again there. And in the framework of the GeneXus event of the GX30, we're going to have a workshop on a topic that we have had many requests about. We're going to launch a new course, Work with Plus UX Expert. The idea is for you to be able to participate in this course. It's for all the developers, all the GeneXus and Work with Plus developers who have special interest in the creation of interfaces, of creating complex ones, of working with user controls, creating templates, components. We have thought up a very intensive course of 8 hours for you to, in that time, learn a lot of resources so that you can create user experiences that are really amazing. So I invite you to that. There are very few slots available, so if you're interested, you can enroll in our learning site. You will see that course there, so you can enroll there and do it through the site. The course is going to be in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So we hope we can have a nice community there in our course. It's going to be on December 1st, so Friday after the days of the event. And I think it's going to be super interesting for those who are interested in interface design. I think that you can't miss this. And now to finish, I would just like to highlight that with WorkWithPlus, we thought of a new version that allows you to quickly incorporate the trends that users want nowadays and need. We do it in a quick way so that you can also adapt and evolve fast. And as always, we do it in a multi-experience approach to generate multiple experiences in multiple channels so that you can always take advantage of the whole power of GeneXus WorkWithPlus and so that you can surprise your final users. The good news, as always, is that with GeneXus and WorkWithPlus, we are really well positioned to face all the technological waves that come up, and with the agility that I was telling you about to make it available for you. Thank you very much. I hope that the webinar was interesting for you, and I think that we have some minutes now for questions. Excellent, Sophia. Really excellent. The whole presentation, the way you did it, it was a great webinar, as we're used to. We have lots of questions. We won't have enough time to answer everything. I'm going to begin with those who have raised their hands. Germán Messi, go ahead. While Germán enables his microphone, I have also a lot of comments. Alejandro Ibáñez says irresistible. So we see the emotions that are being evoked by this, a lot of hearts. So let's go with Monica, who also raised her hand. Go ahead, Monica. Monica, can you turn on your microphone? Don't be shy. I'm seeing raised hands. There's quite a few raised hands. Okay, let's go with Eduardo. Eduardo Galeazzi. Hello, good afternoon. Finally, one that is not shy. Thank you. Very interesting, Sophia and Aníbal. I wrote the questions, but I'm going to ask them out loud. Yes, we have little time, so thank you. One of my questions is if in the process of artificial intelligence, I understand that it's going to decide which is the object that is most appropriate to answer a query of the user. Is there a foreseen method to teach the model in case the decision it makes is not the most appropriate one? How can you orient the AI to have a more precise behavior? Yes, what we do is solve that behavior automatically, but you also have the options, as I was saying, the procedures and methods for you to eventually, if you want to add more information, you can do that. But in the tests that we carried out and the different scenarios that we saw, it's quite accurate what the AI brings up, and the intent is really well understood. But yes, I didn't want to go into much detail on that, but there are ways to provide more information. Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. I have another one. Can I? May I? Yes. Is it possible, or are you foreseeing that the user or some users, based on their permits, can impact on the rules of the model to express their own business rules? Do you mean in artificial intelligence? Yes, yes, artificial intelligence. I don't quite understand the question, I think. Why is it related with the rules of transaction? Well, because it is information, or it is the user, the one who could declare certain controls or behaviors. I just thought that it could be interesting to create those rules dynamically in runtime. So, for example, creating a rule of that says that field age has to be more than a certain value. Yes, that's an example. Or maybe a certain step is compulsory within the wizard in case a certain amount is more than another amount. So things that are tied to the policies of the company. Yes, there's a variety of scenarios that can be built. In particular, the rules is not something that we have explored so far, but we can talk about it later if you want, about concrete cases, and we could see how we could extend it. Probably we can already do it with the mechanisms that we have to extend the behavior, but if we can't, then we'll look into that. So if you want, you can send me an email with your query and we can see it in further detail. Thank you. Thank you, Sofia and Eduardo. Let's go with Carlos Cerda. Go ahead, Carlos. Carlos? Yes, we can hear you. Hello. I have 3 quick questions. One is, GeneXus 18 is the same as GeneXus Next? No, it's different things. It's 2 different products. How could I define GeneXus Next? It's a product that is oriented to circuits and developers. GeneXus Next, what it does is use, based on the language models, you can write what you want for GeneXus to generate, and GeneXus does it automatically. You could say, I want to generate an app for the managing of a sports club, and GeneXus automatically is going to generate the different instances that you would need for the managing of that club, and then there is communication with GeneXus 18 and it generates the whole transactions and the models as we use it. GeneXus Next for this also uses several patterns, among them the WorkWithPlus one. Right, so this new feature that we are seeing now requires GeneXus Next. No, well, now we have GeneXus Next. This is available right now, but it's going to be enabled shortly in the version 18. Yes, what I was saying is that if you want to try it out today, you can do it with GeneXus Next. You can subscribe and try it out. And of course, it's going to be available in the standard WorkWithPlus version that you already know and use, Carlos, in the next weeks. And I see Alejandro also asked this. It's also going to be launched in the version 15 update 2, which is going to be released in the next weeks, the next days. I was just saying that if you want to try it out now, because you are eager to do that, you can do it. The other question is, in the dynamic forms, can you have the data request active based on registered data of previous points? If age was requested, for example, not requesting gender, yes, you can carry out those validations, no problem with that. Or that if you request a field, you request another one, yes, you can do all of that. And with any GeneXus, it could be launched with any GeneXus object. Yes, it can be launched from any GeneXus panel, or you can just send the link directly. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlos. Let's go with Diego Kronberg. 1 second. I am enabling you now. Go ahead, Diego. Hello, Aníbal. How are you? Hello, Sofia. Excellent presentation. Congratulations on all the work. In one slide of the presentation, it says that it's free developer. The question is, will our clients have to pay a runtime? No, not at all. What I just wanted to convey with that slide, with that point, is that in developing, testing, pre-production environments, you won't have to modify anything. You won't have to create an account inside ChatGPT or any model. You will use it directly as it is configured by WorkWithPlus. Using those models, of course, has a cost, but that cost is going to be borne by WorkWithPlus. You won't have to pay anything. There's no cost for you. When you move to production, you can still use the environment of WorkWithPlus, but what we suggest, because you will probably want to have that control, is simply to go to ChatGPT and create a user, and then configure Saya in order to use your own configuration. And there you will have to pay the cost to the model, which has a really low cost, actually. It's really a minimal cost, but it's just because we understand that you will want to have control of what my user is doing, how much they are using a certain feature, and that's why we suggest for you to create your own user and manage it yourselves in an independent way from the user that we have at WorkWithPlus. And this works with just with GeneXus 18, or will it work with GeneXus 17 as well? Well, I'm not sure about GeneXus 17. It does work for GeneXus 18, of course, but I'm not sure about 17. If you can, please send me an email and I'll answer that. And last question. I was really impressed when we had that query of how sales are going, and it generated automatically some screens and graphs with information of how sales were going. This is also done automatically, right? What is done automatically there is discover that the user wants to go to that screen. The dashboard was not generated automatically. It's a screen of the app that you have generated. What it does is that it understands that the user wants to see that, and so it takes them to that dashboard, or because the best way to answer it is with the dashboard. But it's not that the screen is generated automatically, at least not for now. Right, so instead of going through the menu, for example, they could access in this way. We'll see where this takes us, right? Where AI takes us, but that's basically it, yes. If there's several dashboards, the user can just say what they want to do, and they're going to be taken to the corresponding dashboard. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go with one more. Andrés Capucho. Let's see, Andrés. There's a thing with a keyboard. Okay, there we go. Go ahead, Andres. Hello, Aníbal. Hello, Sofia. I have no questions because after seeing this whole fantastic information, my question is, what will I see when I begin to use it? So I just want to express my congratulations to the GeneXus and developing team. I think that one of the most important things, and I always say the same thing, is the support that WorkWithPlus provides when you have sometimes there's an issue of something that we are doing wrong and you get an answer immediately. They solve everything. And so I think that it's something that should be highlighted, that apart from these features that many times we are trying to develop them, unfortunately we have to abandon those projects because it's already done by GeneXus or WorkWithPlus. So that's it. The support that you provide, that's fantastic, and it shouldn't be left aside because it's not a minor thing. And thank you very much. This helps us sell our apps, sell GeneXus, and sell WorkWithPlus. Thank you very much, Andres. Andres, one question. Have you booked your plane ticket to come to the event? Yes, I have everything. See you there. Okay, we'll wait for you here then. Let's move on to the next question. Go ahead, Juan Alejandro. Hello, thank you very much. Congratulations firstly on the webinar. I have a question about AI. Even though it's true that we can generate from GeneXus, we can activate AI and filter the data according to the questions. But let's say that I have super confidential information that I don't want any user to see, or not all users to see. Can I have some sort of control so that users don't see certain records that are confidential for the business? Yes, you can already do it nowadays without the AI module, but all of those controls that you have for the users are also applied when you work with the AI-based assistants. So all of those configurations that you do in terms of permits and security, you're going to have it as well with the queries done with AI. If you want to take a look at a specific case that you have thought about, you can write to me and we can check it in further detail in order to see what the case is. But rest assured that the whole safety, validations and controls is all of that is taken into account when we work with the assistant. Right, so that would be when we are talking about permits and roles, right? I'm talking about information, data. Oh, so your data? Well, we don't use your data. Your data is never going to into ChatGPT or any of the models. We don't use your data to train these models. What we use is the metadata of the KB. What we tell ChatGPT is, okay, this KB has these entities, these filters, these domains, and with that, it's processed and we get the intent. We are not training the model with your data. That is important. It's a good question, and because these cases that I showed you, it's not that I had to train ChatGPT or upload my data or any of that. You're going to be able to do it by incorporating this function in the KB. Your data is never going into ChatGPT or any of the models. There is no security risk there because your data are not going there. The only thing that they get is a general metadata of the KB. Right. Okay, so I'm going to send you an email with the scenario that I'm thinking about, with all of those involved and all of the different aspects that it has, so that maybe we could do it with AI. Yes, please send that over to me. My email is on screen, so yes, I already wrote it down. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to Shabani Murcia. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, perfectly. Well, wonderful as always. GeneXus and WorkWithPlus, excellent job. This thing of dynamic forms goes beyond what I imagined when we talked about it in Bogota. But I have a bigger challenge still for the next one, which is then being able to make queries of the information that was compiled with the form, to be able to check the records of the users, for example, for a certain age range and things of the sort. And the other thing is to be able to have a field. I'm saying this because these are things that I have stumbled upon in my daily work. To have a dynamic combo for entities that are already in the KB. You can do that, but it's quite complex. I don't know if it's foreseen, but yes, that second point is already there. You could have a procedure to service that you get the data in a chart, and with a combo in the form, you could call for that procedure. And so you could load that with dynamic data. That is something that has already been thought out. Regarding the first thing, what you can do now is check the answers of the form. We would like and are foreseeing trying to have a broader panorama of what were the responses in a certain category, maybe having a graph or an indicator. This is something that we've already thought about, and we will probably be able to do that. So we can, of course, talk about that gladly. There was already a spoiler for him of this feature. But yes, we can talk about this and try to create the functionality that you need. But don't worry, rest assured that we're going to be able to have an analysis of what the user completed. And the second point is already resolved. Wonderful, that's really wonderful. And as was said, irresistible. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a lot of questions, and we're going to send these questions to Sophia so that she can reply via email. I want to remind you that this webinar and all the rest are going to be uploaded to our site. There in our webinars section, you can see this webinar, all the previous ones, and the gallery of webinars that are going to be coming. Thank you, Sophia, for this wonderful webinar that she just presented, and all of you for participating. I hope to see many of you in the GX30, as Sophia said, 28th, 29th, and 30th of November here in Montevideo. Go ahead and book your place. Thank you very much.